So thank you for coming to the party to celebrate this new trend. So the agenda of the day, so it's not typical talk, but we'll cover the terminology, we'll cover the history, how did we get here, and then popular use cases, and then what I and others in the industry predicts where it's going. And then it wouldn't be a real presentation if we don't go through the walkthrough. I was warned not to do the real demo, so I recorded everything I did and I made the slides out of that. But trust me, you can run the code. I have printouts of the output. So, and then also I work for company Trainimbus, we are AWS partner, and like my friends here, but this goes beyond the cloud. So we want to touch up on the other cloud vendors' offerings in the serverless and see, if you're new to serverless, how I would go about learning it. And then also adopting serverless. It's not easy, especially now when containers are so popular. So what to do to bring it adoption to your organization. So that would be my take. Disclaimer, like with everything in life, every fact kind of reflects differently depending on your position in life, or where you're standing and your life experiences. So even it's the same fact, we may interpret it differently. So my position is somewhere here because I work with AWS, but it's okay to disagree and to have different perceptions about things we're going to be touching. So what's unusual about serverless, it's the word itself. Every time somebody mentions the word serverless, somebody says other people will argue that there are servers. So yes, there are servers, but it's not developers' responsibility to worry about them. And one of the, actually both of the guys are from UK, Goiko Ajit said that technology is serverless the same way Wi-Fi is wireless. So servers are there, but not your responsibility. They're not visible in the programming model. And then, serverless was announced recently in 2014. There was a reinvent Amazon. So probably 2015, guys were fighting, arguing about the name, what it means. So Paul Johnson, who has been recently hired by Amazon, has stated it's just the name. We can call it like Jeff. And then out of the joke, there was a Jeff Conf in London. And it was so successful that then there was a Jeff Conf in Milan. And then guys from Hamburg wanted to kind of copy it. All the recordings of the presentations are online, so you can enjoy them. I'm working with the organizers of the Function 17 conference, Ahmad, to bring Serverless Conf with the new name Serverless Days to Toronto in August. So we're going to probably run first 3 meetups before August as introduction. So May, June, July about technology, because Ahmad would not like to repeat the same introductory talks that he had last year at the Function 17 that you can also watch as a recording. Links will be coming later. So we're going to try to bring some authorities of the people who really battled and put serverless in production. Most of them from Europe and outside of North America. So you're kind of early adopters here. And then there was this argument, what's serverless, what's not serverless. Again, Paul Johnson, a guy I admire. So he defined kind of lowest common denominator of the definition that serverless is a solution that costs you nothing to run and nobody's using it. So that would be kind of definition that currently community agrees on. So we can talk, we'll have Q&A and we'll have a discussion and continue the party afterwards. So we can debate what it means to you. So another term that is packed with serverless is FAS, function as a service, because your unit of deployment becomes a function, and so it's not only that you have AWS Lambda, shortly after Lambda was announced, Microsoft created Azure functions, then Google created cloud functions. Now even Alibaba has functions, and there are more and more cloud vendors providing the function as a service approach. But then, so what happens? There are even moving to the cloud, there are different abstraction levels, and so to me, FaaS, function as a service, is the closest to the PaaS, platform as a service, because the difference is that the unit of scaling is not the application, it's a function itself. So basically, you can kind of unpack your reads and writes and have them scale and package, deploy differently. So as you can see, So through the history, so we did not even cover before the cloud, but these are different level abstractions because programming was hard, so people are trying to come with a higher level of abstractions to kind of make the life easier. So again, definitions, so to touch upon difference between PaaS and FaaS, like not every function as a service implementation is considered to be serverless in the definitions that I agree with. We'll disagree later. So one of them is kubeless. So kubeless is a serverless implementation that runs on Kubernetes cluster. But because definition says that you don't pay for the resource if you don't use it, that's not true. So we would exclude that FaaS implementation from the serverless definition. But then at the same time, you have services like S3 that you wouldn't pay when you're not using. So there are some services, backend services really, that qualify in the serverless category. So you have kind of hybrid mixture of BaaS and FaaS that composes serverless. So you may agree or disagree, we'll talk about it after. So the reason like why I organized this event is really excitement about the serverless. Like I've been in the industry like over 30 years now, and like it was getting harder and harder, and just to the point that you almost think you would want to leave computers, and then you discover serverless, like light at the end of the tunnel. So it's not a minor thing. Like normally there are so many buzzwords and terminologies used, so you would mix up what's important. This is the thing coming. So I really believe like you're in the early like stages that you can adopt it and ride the wave and help companies like and the people who are in the business. How many of you are in the computers like more than 15 years in IT? Okay, more than 20 years? Okay, that's good. So I understand the pains that I'm talking about. Like it's like I come from the war zone, from former Yugoslavia. So it was hard to accept that there is a new country like after the war. But then kids who were born, what's happening? Hello? Kids who were born in okay. So can you hear me? But kids who were born in Bosnia, they don't know anything better. So if you are like in the industry like 15 years, you don't know that it was better before, and that we can do it like again, like simplify things like they once kind of were. So what I'm telling you, it's based on my experience, my excitement, and I wanted to share with the world. And then I realized I'm not alone. There are other guys around the world, and because it's across AWS, I was kind of encouraged to start this group and to have you guys join me and start preparing the talks and learning about it and promoting to the Toronto community. So let's start with the past. So I always like to make the models of boats, of planes, of trains. So this craftsmanship, do-it-yourself thing, my brother can testify. When I became software engineer, I like to create good software. But because you had to administer those machines, I ended up spending more time being administrator and supporting productions than really coding, doing the things that I liked. And then like 10 years later, so let's say I started in 87, in 97, internet comes and then complicates things even more. And so software just became too complicated to run afterwards. So if you were to compare with the hobby like I had of building models of trains, like you kind of, it looks beautiful, you plan it, you build it, you design it, and then it goes to production, and this is how I end up feeling. Like really, like I have to feed the engine, to put the code, it's dirty. Data centers where it's cold, that's the only difference really in the reality of the life of engineer. So being a developer, kind of you try to avoid, you didn't like running the software because there was so much administration and maintenance to it. So that was my developer's view of the history of building versus maintaining software. And then, so what happened, now I'm seeing the trend of this DevOps culture, you build it, you run it, but that's how it used to be before. It's just like we were arrogant, we didn't like to run the software, so we created this operations and other guys that are gonna take care of our software. And I joke it's a toss over the fence principle, we just give it to somebody else to take care of our whatever it is, apps. And then we were released from maintaining the apps, there's no longer paging, but we became sloppier, so we introduced more bugs because it was somebody else's responsibility to deal with it. So, which if you are kind of business owner, this extra operational cost, it's somebody else's testing, somebody else's running, somebody else's patching, it just became complicated. And so this is visually like how I see it, like tossing it over the fence. So somewhere in here, like you're gonna test it or not, unit test, you give it to somebody else and try to not to worry. So like it's really a circle SDLC, but I couldn't find something that's visible to put here. So that's operational view, that's a development view. Now as a business owner, like if you have an idea, you want to build something, like it's not the product you're building, like it's all the time you spend managing it, and then you're hoping to have a business, people coming to the site, but it's hard to get capacity, like you either under-provision it, so people cannot come, it's slow site, or it doesn't work, or you over-provision it, so you put so many resources in computers that you're paying more money for data centers, wherever they are, in the cloud or your own, just because to handle that. So that gave the birth to the area of capacity planning, and like it also added expense to the computing world. So, and I'm telling you from the experience, because I did work in a Sun Microsystem of performance tuning, and I worked in Adrian's group. So we were the guys making sure that Solaris runs Java properly. It's really not easy to properly size it. And then later on, his other book saved me in the dot-com days when you were kind of trying to plan capacity for the companies running their businesses. So trust me, it's hard to get capacity applied right. So that's my excitement, like first disappointment in the computers, in like where industry is taking us, and complications. And then unexpectedly, really unexpectedly, like Amazon was just selling the books. So they didn't invent it because they wanted to sell it. They had the problem they had to solve. And that's how the cloud started, and that's how serverless started unexpectedly. So I put the link in the slides. You're going to get them after to the presentation. Like it's 7-minute slide, but it's so charging and exciting how it was done. But in reality, it's kind of not a completely new thing. Serverless is kind of built on the knowledge of the industry we collected before. Like, so primarily it's a really container that's running in the back that is spawning the function. And then so it's just the next chapter in the evolution of the cloud computing. So I found this funny slide on the internet, so it's not mine, but it kind of shows where we were from the physical servers virtualization, then cloud computing and containers I think came before, so Mike may not agree with me. Even Mike wouldn't agree, I think, with the slide I put comparing like kind of abstraction levels, because I think PaaS is closer to serverless, higher level abstraction than containers, but that's a different topic after. And so this is the slide. So basically, so you see how I put containerization like as a lower level abstraction compared to platform as a service. So it was much easier like to run Java apps in Pivotal Cloud Foundry or something like rather than worrying about containers, high level abstraction, then function, and just one more step up to me. And so in a journey for looking for simplicity, first the cloud was born, but then like this abstraction level didn't deliver like what was originally promised, and then people are starting innovating, and we came to this function. So that's why I got excited about the serverless. So that was in general a functions deployment, not paying for the serverless cost, but there are some qualities that are built in, and the team, I think, I may be wrong, but I think you guys may correct me from Amazon, it was Tim Wagner's team that created Lambda service. So he's now currently, these are his current titles, but his team started the serverless Lambda, AWS Lambda movement, and he came up with the serverless manifesto. Somehow it's not properly sizing the slide. It's going to look better when I give you PDFs. And so read it for you. It's like not 10 commandments, 8 commandments. And digest it. So I already highlighted those commandments that I like the most. Functions are the units of deployment. So you would zip up your function and give it to the cloud provider to run for you. And then there is no machines, no virtual machines, no containers, nothing is visible to you as a developer. And then because it's ephemeral in nature, so you cannot keep state inside, so storage has to live outside, elsewhere. And then a unit of scaling. So before, if you're developing app in a PaaS application, if you come from Java background, like it's the whole application that scales up and down, but your writes may happen 1/10 of the time to your reads. So serverless really enables you to scale per request. So functions just replicate themselves, and you get a huge amounts of parallelization. And then when nobody's using your system, you don't pay for it. That's the beauty. So you can develop startups for peanuts. If the idea is bad, you're not going to be charged for that, just your time to put the idea up. But nothing is preventing you to experiment and to prototype quickly. And then because of that, you have implicit fault tolerance as well for the functions. And another thing that I like, because like language comes as a part of cloud providers, it's bring your own code. So that means like that the different cloud providers decide of the languages they're going to support. Lowest common denominator that I've seen in a cloud being Node.js that all clouds provided. Am I going too fast? Is this okay? Because it's just, yes, too fast, or is it because it's an introductory thing? It's just kind of to bring you to the same level, and then when the serverless group starts, we're going to start going deeper. This is hello world kind of party. And then also like cloud providers will give you logging and metrics, so you don't have to worry about that. And probably like if you're in business like 15 years or more, you probably load your own loggers and your kind of libraries. That's not needed anymore. Like it's given by the cloud provider, and it's necessity also because like serverless functions are really like microservices. So you need to have a proper logging correlation to know what's happening behind the scene. So that's kind of in general what I saw that we like. But then what's the benefit to you? Like how would you translate the features that we talked about into the benefits? So coming from development background, like you're going to be happy because you don't need to think about that infrastructure. No more locomotives to feed. It's just you focus on your idea, business problem in hand, and you work on it. And then as the business owner, there are less building blocks. Like you want to start selling books, you have to build data centers and invent cloud or anything you do. Like most of the focus is on the infrastructure rather than code. So that's changing. So for you, if you're a startup owner, like it's one less headache to have. And total cost of ownership of software goes down because it's much cheaper to run it like originally when you're experimenting. Because it's good for spiky loads. So it's cheaper to run and create software. So hopefully end users are going to feel some benefits of the savings. It doesn't have to be, depending on the owner, but one good example is the company A Cloud Guru. They're from Australia. They are a training company that if you are studying anything about AWS and now other clouds, you can get good training from them. So their membership, I think, costs $240. That's before any discounts. Like it's unbelievable price. Like you never pay training that's cheap for a whole year if they were not running serverless, because their Amazon bills are small and they can support all hundreds of thousands of users, transcoding in the real time. It's just like it's beautifully cheap, accessible software. But then in general, there is something even bigger. I think it's a speed to innovation, because you don't have to think about the infrastructure. You can quickly prototype ideas. It doesn't cost you much to experiment. And then you toss it to the world, to your serverless application, see if it sticks. And then, so it really speeds up the cycle of experimentation and allows you to innovate faster. So now we're getting kind of almost like this last night I found something unusual. Like I like, can you hear me? Yes. So there is a book author and consultant, Jeff Patton, and like we often argue in the development world about sprints and agile and running faster, but Jeff Patton thinks that software development is expensive and slow, not because of developers being slow, but because most of ideas suck. And then when you take all the time to put them in production, you would not know until you spend so much time. So I'm hoping to see with serverless that you can prototype faster, try 8 things that are going to fail, and then 2 of them will work. So we'll probably include that in separate in the slides, but Google for Jeff Patton. So it's really a brilliant and simple way to look at agile and sprints and innovation. So that's how I got excited about it. So now the use cases, like where would you use it? So again, it's biased from my experience. I used to work on like Java, Spring, and then microservices. So I saw somehow like most. So sorry, I didn't know that's the next slide. We'll talk about what I started before. So when Amazon invented AWS, they didn't even call it serverless. They called it like event-driven compute service. That was the name. Serverless name was called by the serverless.com guys that saw it's bigger than just Amazon Cloud. But what's the simplicity and beauty of the idea? Basically, like if you look at the events, that any state changes event. So you had a file, and then somebody uploaded the file. Or somebody changed a record in the database, inserted something in the database. That's a state change from the past and current state are different. That can trigger event. It's almost like triggering the database. And then that event will invoke a function. And that function can do pretty much anything. So if you have a system generating a changing state and another system that needs to react, your function, serverless function becomes a glue between two things. And why I put this slide before use cases, like because it's a glue. I may glue wood, you may glue metal, somebody's going to glue plastic. There are so many different use cases. But the technology allows you to glue many things using different types of glues, like Google or Amazon or Microsoft. So that's kind of why it started. So use cases, going a little bit deeper. Again, I apologize. Only cloud I know is Amazon. So therefore, all examples are given for Amazon cloud. But there is equivalent in other cloud vendors as well. And so basically, like everything in the past, there is a push model and pull model. So if the change happened in the system, for instance, you have Alexa skill, it calls it synchronously. So you have to wait until skill is finished to get the result back. Or some IoT devices. There is another way to call the Lambda functions. It's asynchronously, like when message arrives. So it's similar when you send a job to the printer. You don't care when it's printed, you're going to be let know if it failed or succeeded. So S and S3 example in Amazon world of asynchronous push model. And then when you're talking about streaming, it's more effective to do the pull model. So it's not Lambda function, but Lambda subsystem in Amazon will call your function when the database starts generating changes or streaming kinesis, that's their product, kind of caused this. So you can do reads in bulks, in batches, and process them faster. So this is before we go into the use cases. So again, so now back to my Spring framework and Java background. So this was like maybe 30 years ago, you package everything in the app, but then sometime like 10 years later, like 20 years ago, NTS starting showing up. We were breaking up the front end, middle tier, and the back end. You would never let somebody go directly to your database. You had the middle tier to deal with that. Then breaking up the monolith trend started. So like every place I was working with RBC, we were breaking up the SOAP services, monolith services into microservices. But you have a dilemma, like a domain model, like we were working on notifications, like is one notification single service or SMS is one service, short SMS is another service, and email is a third service. So now with the arrival of functions, like you get a better guideline that really like one unit of work is one function. So it's continuing the same trend of breaking the monolith. So if you spend any time working on microservices, you can just easily migrate to serverless architecture with any cloud vendor. And I took this out of the Amazon book manual for Lambda. So basically, like in order to expose Lambda out to the outside world, you need a trigger. So this is a HTTP request. So Lambda is fronted with API gateway, which takes HTTP requests. And then in the back end, it can kind of store the data that you had and access it, read it, and write it. So this is going to be core similar exercise we're going to go through through our demo, except that I will have no state, no persistence there. So that's a kind of nothing unusual, same old thing. It's just done serverlessly because you hit URL, your serverless function gets triggered and does the magic. Other use cases, so obviously web services, web application themselves, mobile backends, and then IoT devices. And this is a big one. Like I think that batch processing is ideal use case for serverless. And these ETL programs that now we call ELT programs, big data streaming, real-time streaming, because you have system on one side producing the data changes that needs to be consumed by the other system. So if you remember, do you know definition of ELT. Like that's kind of like being old guy, like extract, transform, and load is the old term. So you would take the data from the source system, you would transform it, probably in star schema, load it into the database in that star schema. So every reader would be kind of accessing the unified star schema. So you had to kind of convert into the data warehouse view. Now with the arrival of clouds and the data lake is more kind of unstructured data. That's lots of data there. It doesn't have to be in a star schema. So you can load data immediately. So you extract it from the source system, you load it immediately, and transformation happens on the read. So which is unusual. So you have these, so you would kind of have schema on read. So whatever you would modify before. So the data warehouses are becoming much cheaper, and big data is a good candidate for introduction of serverless apps. And again, real-time streaming ties in with big data and ties in with video streaming as well, or Twitter feeds, whatever. You have a continuous stream of events. This is a big one. It's related to a data center. So if you're a DevOps guy in the data center, you can monitor the logs, like if you're already in the cloud, CloudWatch events, and then trigger corrective actions. So there is lots of do-it-yourself tools for security testing, for correcting. It's just fun. If you're a DevOps guy, if you're a kind of traditional cloud engineer, this is the area where you would enjoy the most, because it started from the monitoring, from the DevOps side in Amazon. If you go back into reInvent videos 2016, most of the use cases that they feature at the time were related to DevOps. So it's less and less frequent now because general public is finding out about other use cases. But if you want to improve the life in your organization, go to 2016 reInvent, tons of good videos. And then chatbots and Amazon Alexa and probably Google Mini are other use cases for serverless. So that is a present opportunity that I saw. So I hope I shared like my frustration with the IT over the 30 years, and then the light at the end of the tunnel and possibilities, how we can start introducing it. Like why people think like, not too many people saw this tweet, but this is one of the UK scientists. Again, like he's early adopter of serverless. He often comes to the conferences around. So I like his prediction that it's a new technology to watch for next 15 years. And then like you hear the buzzwords, big data, you hear serverless, containers, you hear AI, machine learning. Proper machine learning is probably going to come. Like I would agree with him later on. So that's why I think I'm going to stay in serverless camp. Again, it's a new technology. Like lots of things are missing, and people who spend more time with it can testify. Probably the tooling, and that's why I'm happy to have Jay here, because they're working on improving the tooling set. So for instance, like if you have serverless app, like you don't want to put Jenkins in a cloud and pay for it because everything's serverless. So you need serverless CI/CD tools. So you need better environments to develop in the serverless world. So that's lagging behind, and hopefully you guys become successful, and we're going to be proud that we knew you. But it's still early phases. So every vendor is adding their own tools, and then like if you don't care about cloud provider, you can follow your vendor of choice to use their tools. But it's not bad. I like kind of cross-platform idea to stay with the tools that work against more environments. So pay attention to the serverlessstack.com work so far and the products you're building, but that's coming after. Another thing, like it's happening again, like we are excited about the clouds. They're big. You can do anything you want in Amazon Cloud or Google Cloud if you go serverless, because you have access to every feature inside they have. But then you are kind of locked into your own cloud. So I don't know if you're aware of the work. This is Cloud Native Computing Foundation. So how I see it, the companies that came late to the cloud behind Amazon, they created this foundation, and then Google donated Kubernetes to that foundation. So suddenly they're becoming kind of authorities. So they organize KubeCons and other events. But one of the working groups they have is a serverless working group. And their contribution that I liked was cloud events.io. So it's kind of, because serverless is about those events, if you remember that glue picture and one above, events are specific to the cloud vendor. With this specification, the events could be kind of brokered across the clouds. So if you are containers level like Mike, go to KubeCon, And there is Kelsey, guy from Google. He did an amazing talk about having the files, Lambda being triggered from S3 in Amazon, and then translated the message that's found by Google in the Google Cloud, that he was using this cloud events thing. But that's kind of long future. So for now, like focus, try to learn it, adopt it in your companies. Once you're comfortable, you're going to see the world, leave the house, and then talk to the other clouds. And then what's missing is also orchestration, like even in microservices, like you break it up, you have a mess of the services, who's calling who, like discovery, like orchestration. So that problem is being emphasized. They're not emphasizing, talking about it yet, but it's going to come. It came with SOAP. We are criticizing SOAP now for people, but it's a workflow engine that was on top of SOAP. So we will have probably like some future implementations of workflow engines or orchestration engines, and currently, like when you get comfortable with, if you're using Amazon Cloud, if you get comfortable with Amazon Lambdas, explore step functions, because you see, I didn't talk about charging, the way clouds charge for Lambdas. It's per processing time. So if you're waiting for something, if your serverless is still running, you will be paying for it. So there is a trick that in step functions, you don't pay for waiting. So if you have a state machine that you're waiting something to happen, it's happening here. And then when you need to process, only then you invent Lambda. So you see how things are moving from operations, from DevOps, to probably cost operations. Your focus will be like, where do I save money? Which feature of the cloud I use to pay less to my beloved cloud provider? And then Azure already has logic apps. I did not play much with it, but people praise it. Oracle came late to the game of the cloud. They were the joke in the cloud world, but they did a smart move. They pretty much copied what IBM did. So IBM donated IBM OpenWhisk to Apache Foundation, so it became Apache OpenWhisk. And Oracle did the same thing. So their pitch is like, Amazon is going to give you some of the stuff open source, but the best open source implementations running in their cloud. So that was the biggest critic of Amazon, that they take open source stuff and then they improve it on their platform, but don't give back to the community. And I hear that's one of the reasons they hired Adrian Cockcroft, because everything he did for Netflix was given back to the community. So Oracle's pitch was, we have Oracle FN Functions project. Oracle FN Flow is implementation of the workflow. And whatever we run in our cloud, you can run on your own premise if you download our stuff as well. So, and then there is another cloud, I don't even know how to pronounce this word, but it was on a recent Google's conference. It was a good talk, good workflow, I liked it. How do you pronounce this word? Fissions, I don't even know what it means, but it was impressive demo one of the Google engineers gave about the workflow. So just to kind of visualize, so if you have microservices, so this is a kind of Netflix stream of people, like invocation of microservices. You need kind of to visualize, to orchestrate, to know what's going on. And like, this is a tool that Netflix used to visualize that. But when you look at that, doesn't it remind you of breathing? And like, that's why I believe that Simon Wardley was right. Like, once we get our Lambdas and serverless functions in order, there's going to be probably some AI software to orchestrate this. And that's going to come after. So that's how I see future. And that's basically overview of the where we are now and how we got there from my personal biased orange type view. Now, do you need a break, or do you have questions, or can we continue? So we still have like 15 minutes. So basically. So serverless.com is the company that coined the serverless term, and they registered the domain name. And their creator was so excited about that he wrote the framework that simplifies kind of adoption, command line tool to simplifies lifecycle tooling to deploy the functions into the clouds. And because I only know like Amazon Cloud, the example will be in Amazon Lambda, but you will be able to run similar example in your own cloud of choice. Again, like in order to run serverless framework, you would need kind of Node.js installed on your machine. And so these are kind of advantages of the toolkit, but it makes a workflow, writing function, package, and deploying really simple. And I'm going to show that. So another benefit of the serverless framework, the company that is kind of helping us, encourage me to run these meetups, is once you write your functions, like you can deploy them with a similar tooling experience to any of these clouds they currently support. And they're going to be adding more. Probably going to see Alibaba soon. So then also you have the freedom of choosing the language, but then you are kind of depending on your cloud provider, like what it supports. So because it's going to be Amazon example, supported languages in Amazon, a couple of versions of Node, 2 versions of Python. I think they support Java 8, and then C#, and the Go is the latest addition to the family of serverless languages. If you don't care, if you're new, if you just start and play with it, lowest common denominator, there is most information about Node.js. If you like big data, data science, most use cases are Python. That would be kind of criteria. If you are concerned about the startup times of these functions, because you probably heard about kind of starting call. First time when you invoke the functions, cloud provider has to run your container, then instantiate, unzip the function, run it. Go language is the fastest to execute, and Java is the slowest. So just a word of warning, if you don't care which vendor. If you do care, probably your company already kind of delegated the language. So now prerequisites before you can use serverless framework. So this is kind of demo, but not a real demo because I didn't want to risk something going wrong. So I typed the commands and I recorded it, and here in the audience I printed a couple copies. So if you don't believe the outputs, you can show around what actually you would see on the screen. So just kind of a simple hello world thing to show how things are easy. So you do need Node.js to install it. You need an NPM package, but in serverless, you can pretty much use any language that's supported by your cloud vendor. So what the slides are here, I put on the slides only the commands I typed. The output of the commands are the printouts in the bigger paper. So I want you to pay attention to this. After serverless is installed, you see how it is. You choose the cloud provider, you choose the language of choice, and give the project a name. And it will generate everything you need, assuming that you can connect to Amazon from the command line before, everything you need to deploy that function to the cloud. So it would generate, these 2 files are most important, and then it would put them in the subdirectory. So I named it for us for the first meetup. And if you open these 2 files, there is lots of comments. They are long files because serverless can be triggered by many things. So the only thing I did, so see, the project was Toronto. In the template before, it said AWS and Node.js. So now serverless framework knew to generate it for this cloud and for this language. And he called the function, this function default hello. But the function is just a lambda. It's not triggered by anything. So you don't want to have a loopback call from the framework. You want to expose it to the world. So you need a kind of AWS, this API gateway on top, and you need to have HTTP call. That's answering the calls. And in order to illustrate that the hello doesn't have to be hello, I uncommented 3 lines and changed the hello to Daniel. So this code compared with the function itself, where you have the event source that's coming, you have the context because it's serverless, stateless, and then you have to return the response back. It's just hello world, let's go. The only thing I did here is I removed the comment so the whole function would fit into 1 page. So you can almost do no work and have, if you would, so what happened? I slide too much. And then you would call deploy. It would take some time. First time it's slower to send it to the cloud provider. Every subsequent deployment would be faster. Because what happens, you probably heard the infrastructure as a software term. So it generates, at least for the AWS world, cloud formation stack fully and sends it to the cloud provider. So that's what takes time behind the scenes. So there is lots of knowledge that you don't need to worry about if you're using this framework. And then there are some commands I crossed. They're not mandatory to list kind of what's happening. And then this is a loopback. You're invoking your function hello. And this is the response we got. It's very similar, that same string. And it's properly packaged for HTTP. So if you were to invoke, so when you deploy it, it's going to give you this URL. So I pasted this URL in the browser And then this is a JSON that we got back. So that's your hello world example. It's really beautifully trivial. Yes?
Is it automating API gateway to get
Yes, you don't have to worry about API gateway either. It's everything. You get like everything, like full experience. And that works across clouds. So if you would be using any of the other clouds, it's the same command. Just the template would probably say Azure or Microsoft, I don't know, I never ran it. And the language, whatever you want to do it. And couple edits on comments, figure out your triggers that's going to call that Lambda, and you have your serverless app. So because this is a kind of just kind of to get you feel good about the Lambda, there is more to that. And so you could, so I'll give you the slides after. In the quick start, it continues on the same example I gave, but then it introduces DynamoDB. That's Amazon's way to store data in the cloud, so you can persist your calls, you can learn more. And then you have equivalent startups for other providers. All the providers are listed. If you go here, you will be finding them in the serverless documentation. So that's hello world. Was it simple? Like it's so now like consuming like you're new to serverless. Like I would recommend. So my conversion to the serverless really happened last year when there was a Function 17 event, and then when I met Chris Mans from Amazon. So it's really like you need first to step up in the cloud itself. It's like talking two different languages. So I would recommend highly like pick up your cloud and then just do one of the certifications. Because I come from development background, I would recommend you take this course. It can be for peanuts. You can find it for 10, 15 bucks. On Udemy, and it's the same course that A Cloud Guru sells. So before if you're unsure, is it worth spending $240 on their training, just Google the course and start learning about the cloud to understand terminology better. After that, again, because I'm not DevOps, I'm not ops engineer, I didn't like operations that much. I like newer reinvents better because use cases are more generic, more big data, more machine learning, not just the data center automation related. So I would go to this link. Guys from the serverless put every serverless talk that was in there that you can kind of look around, there are slides, and learn about it. Then, if you're really kind of happy with how things are moving, so I apologize to our friends here, but I chose another path for getting my serverless skills up. Jan is a great developer in UK, and he put a training for Manning, and it's a live online training, and the guy is brilliant. So it's a real deal. So when you want to put stuff to production, if you want to really learn like issues that may happen, things that I didn't show you, things that can go wrong, he's the guy who can help you. So it's very often Manning has a 40 to 50% discount. So the way I got this cheaper was to register with the email list and then wait for the first discount and then buy it. But first start getting kind of terminology right. And then I work for Trainimbus and I'm deep into the topic, so you can always connect with me on Twitter, on LinkedIn, and there is Meetup group. So that was the last slide that was cut off. So ideas how to put serverless in production. So most of the serverless projects I've seen are coming not from North America. They're either UK. So we were joking before Meetup started that Brits created rock and roll. Brits adopted serverless first. And if it's not Brits, it's the guys with same accents from Australia, A Cloud Guru that promoted it. So it's slow. Adoption is kind of slow on this continent. So don't kind of bring your hopes up that you're going to change the world. And thinking is a little bit different. So I would look for the batch jobs. So that would be like if you're in the company, look where you have kind of two different systems that have to share the state from one to another. Like before I joined Trainimbus, I worked at the company that did not use mass mailer for the Dynamics CRM. So every time somebody unsubscribes, there was a batch file that has to go over to the other side to update the CRM. But then when do you trigger batch files? Like, isn't it better if it's just serverless when it happens, rather than triggering it like 7 days after, but maybe not everybody unsubscribes 7 days after. So batch jobs are ideal, small thing to do it on your own at your free time. Even like you can do it like without making any big fuss in the company where you're at. And then also like file uploaders, like batch uploading, parallelization. So I think these are the simplest way to start serverless. And then once your managers are happy with what you're doing, then they can add you a couple more guys to the team to do something bigger. But it's going to get you deeper into the topic. So that would be how I would see it. Many of us in Toronto are still not in the cloud. And don't lose the kind of hope, because microservices themselves were on the path to simplifying development. So I particularly recommend to go to this website. Heroku was the company that created this kind of 12 driving principles. And read up there and see how you can improve your code. There is so much refactoring you can do today to make migration to the cloud easier later on. And again, a Function 17 conference, that was the talk that impressed me, because I was sucker for 12-factor already. When Chris Mann spoke about serverless, how it maps those principles serverless, he got me like that. That's how I got addicted. So this is going to be available for you as well. And then that's it. That's why I was excited, that I wanted to share how I feel and to have you here. And then it's a kind of new thing. It's easy to get forgotten. You're busy, doing whatever they tell you to do at the work. But there is a light at the end of the tunnel. We can kind of make development more fun, make operations easier, and then kind of help change the world and innovate and make more ideas, put them to test. So what I thought should happen, my kind of co-sponsors, serverless guys, they suggested we run this on a monthly basis, because we are bringing serverless day or JeffConf to Toronto in August. It would be good that the first 3 meetups are introductory. So I was also asked to do first 2 meetups. So second one, because I come with the IVR background, and yesterday's IVRs are today's chatbots, I will see what I can put together as use case. Because this was, just like reading the Bible and preaching about it, but we have to do something simple, something useful to get more people motivated to jump onto the bandwagon. And so probably sometime end of June, we'll find the slides that are not some big events in Toronto. So this may change, monitor the group. And if we did well, if Franz and Mandy still like us, we may get this space again. So for the next time, then I would need a presenter probably for July, but I wouldn't go very deep into the topics. We want as many people to be ready for the Serverless Day event that's happening in August. So any volunteers, anybody who wants to do in any cloud, just reach out to me, so to keep the fire burning and not kind of lose this enthusiasm I have about technology. And then again, I want to thank everybody. So My Planet, it's a nice company. I know the people who started this place from 12 years ago, really genuine, sharing, caring people that care for Drupal, for content management. And my company is the same, because we teach AWS across Canada. And then also serverless, because first I saw I wasn't alone, and then they encouraged me to move forward and kept me going to not give up on this group. So that's it. Last thing that I'm obliged to tell for the company that sends me, that provided the pizza, we're a great place to work. We are hiring. So I cannot promise you that you're going to work on the serverless technologies, because we have to migrate people to the cloud. But you will see the light at the end of the tunnel, and you will be encouraged to find your passion, to find your hobby, and to teach and preach about that. They encouraged me to do it not under their own umbrella, but on their time. So I invite you to look at the website, career section. And then sometimes this software that we use is confusing, because we have offices across Canada. So if the job is for both Montreal and Toronto, it would show only for the city that it was posted first. So if you see the job that you like, but it's not in your city, reach out to me. It's probably in Toronto as well, because we are kind of fastest growing market. That's why we need some sales guys as well. And that's me. So let the discussion begin. So.